Tēnā koutou, good morning and welcome to Infrastructure Committee. I'd like to welcome Wayne from Committee Boards and Ali on the Zoom. Also, I'd like to welcome Bill Steens, who's filling in for Andrew Dixon, who's also on Zoom at the moment. So I've received no apologies. Has anyone got any identifications, items of urgent business? Any other matters of a minor nature? Any conflicts of interest? Lovely. Chairperson's report. Over the last month or so, I've had catch-ups with Group Manager Andrew Dixon. I've attended an extraordinary council meeting, workshops at a council meeting, people and performance committees, stakeholder meeting with Theatre Royal and Heritage Facility, age-friendly steering group meeting, and 3 Waters webinar. I'll move my report. I have a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Gilchrist. 6.1 is confirmation of the minutes. So just put these back. So the minutes from Tuesday, the 20th of July. Seems like a long time ago. Thank you, Councillor Wills. Seconder, please. Councillor Gilchrist. All those in favour? Aye. It's moved. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to our reports, we've got 2. Our first one, 7.1, is the capital projects update. So we have an ambitious program and it's great progress to see the start that the first 2 months were almost doubled in our progress from last year. And I welcome Josie and Bill to speak to the paper.
Thank you very much, Councillor Parker. I'll hand over to Josie to speak, who can take the mask off if you want.
Yes, so if you look at the graph in section 7 there, you can see that we are busy. We're going to continue to be busy. We are well ahead of where we were at the same period last year. And the other thing I would draw your attention to is section 11, which is the number of quite significant projects that are in a startup phase at the moment.
Any questions from the floor? Yes, Councillor Booth.
Sorry, yeah, 11 Argentine Art Gallery. Architect and structural engineer are completing detailed design for building consent application. Now, my understanding that we actually hadn't really got to the concept stage, let alone getting to detailed design for building consent. So yeah, I'm quite interested to know at what stage that actually is at.
Who's supposed to answer that, Bill? Probably Simon Legger.
Yeah, we'll get Simon.
Argentine Art Gallery.
I'll just welcome Simon Leggett to speak to that.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you all. Good morning. The Egantyre project is progressing. It's not at the stage of doing a detailed design. We do have a workshop scheduled for next Tuesday afternoon to talk through the concept design and construction in that space. And then we'll look at various options for us to consider, whether it be 1-story, 2-story. There is a design, potential design for us to look at a concept phase that is there. So we are at that consideration of concept design.
Okay, so who are the people who are qualified to be having that discussion?
The discussion with the concept.
Yeah. So
architects that have been working with the Egantyre project, Livingston, have developed what would be a broad outline for us to consider as a concept, and then for us as, or for yourselves as councillors, is this something we're happy with from a concept? There has been a discussion amongst the governance group for this project. Do we go and tender once we've settled on the design, the concept features? Do we ask for tenders for this project in terms of developing the concept before moving to develop detailed design?
I didn't realise we'd actually selected the architect. I assumed or was led to believe that there would be competition for getting different architects' input appropriately, probably qualified for that job, to give us some options.
Correct. So the architects to develop the concept design have not been set. What we've got is a situation where we've got the existing historic house and the trustee that provides some limitations with us. So what we've got is consultation that's occurred with family and key stakeholders in particular, in response to questions of, we don't know what say, for example, a 2-story extension would look like when attached to the house. Give us something to look at. So the approach to the architect at the time was, can you give us an idea of what this would look like, so we can actually see if the family and stakeholders would be happy to progress with this. And if they say, for example, a 2-story design is something to proceed with, then we can go and tender and have a competition for architects to develop the concept and then onto the detailed design.
I guess it's a bit of chicken egg, but I guess the Vulcan location is actually really as much as you can hope to achieve prior to appointing. It sounds like you've appointed an architect to do the job now, regardless.
No, we've had to do some work to develop and get something for the stakeholders to see before they go, yes, actually, we're okay with that, as opposed before we actually struck out the concept.
I think there might be a bit of confusion with the on the agenda here. That comment actually relates to the alterations to the existing heritage building, not to the new.
It's not in this report. It's saying Argentine Art Gallery. That's the
Yeah,
whole
but it
thing.
should say Argentine Art Gallery renovations to the old building. It's not actually.
It's actually, this is only the old building.
It's only the old building. Yes.
Okay. Oh.
Right. Sorry, I was talking about the extensions.
Are you satisfied?
Not really. No, it just doesn't sound to me like there's a logical process going forward here, and perhaps I just wonder if they're getting the right advice, and I'm just not, I guess, hearing the right things in a logical manner.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, move on.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for the clarity, Rosie, in regard to the 2 points. The last governance meeting, we did reaffirm, and officers were aware, so I'm sure that will happen, that it did need to go to tender effectively, so local architect groups or consultants could have a fair crack at it, and so that was reaffirmed, or 1 at the LTP, but 2 with the governance meeting, which was a month or so ago, I think, wasn't it? And then, yeah, understanding, Simon, I think your point is around the family and that early stakeholder engagement, isn't it? Because we've talked about the trustee deed and how we get to that point. I'd just be careful that we're not spending too much money on something that we need to then go to market, to understanding that you need to consult and get that stakeholder group on board, take them on the journey. But if we don't have a confirmed architect, then it's could look quite different again. Yeah, I sort of have similar concerns, Councillor Booth.
Councillor Pennington.
Not on the Argentine Art Gallery, a couple of other things. Can we just have an update on the Caroline Bay bleachers, where exactly that is? And in the money we've given Wales Creek stormwater improvements on page 35, I think it is. It just says Sandtrack cleaned an assessment of Waimatata Creek is progressing. The project, according to this, is to be completed by late 2021. That doesn't seem right if you haven't actually had a plan. So can I have an update on that?
provide an update on the bleachers. We have a tender and we've got a preferred contractor. The value or the budget and the dollar on the table is a little bit different. So we're coming back to you in 3 weeks, or 26th or the 25th for the council meeting to inquire in regards to the cost and then also the actual tender. So we're actually ready to go. It's all done. We're hoping that we'll be underway 1st of May 2020 with a completion date probably late October, mid-November. So it's all ready to go. I just need to come back with some information to the table for you all. But it's very positive. It's really good. And it's, yeah. Any other questions?
Yes, yeah, hard to, don't you?
Bleachers?
Who can reply on Wales Creek? What's happening there? Thanks, Ash.
Welcome, Mr. Harper.
So, Madam Chair, are we up to these individual project reports now?
Because it's all in one project. It's all in one, isn't it? Yep.
So I'm able to answer any of the project reports relating to Three Waters and the particular water projects, but the question from Councillor Piddington was in relation to Wiles Creek stormwater improvements at Caroline Bay. So that project is sort of multifaceted. The first part is sand trap cleaning in the Ashbury Park area, and that has been completed months ago. And right now there's work progressing on assessment of Waimatato Creek and Wales Creek, and maybe there's some work to be done in conjunction with the Sea Play project in terms of stormwater improvements there. So that's work in progress at the moment.
So when's it likely to be completed? It's got late 2021, which we're almost at.
Oh, no, we're not. There's still 3 months to go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and yeah, this is all dynamic. Remember, this report is written 3 weeks ago, and so there is updates across the board. But for the stimulus work program, all these must be finished by 31 March, and that's a hard completion date. And we are right on track. So we have no issue, and because we set our projects up this time last year to be successful by choosing projects that didn't involve too much consenting work, which takes all the time, and having reviewed the projects over the last couple of work days, then we are on track. And of course, we have to report to Wellington on these projects every 3 months and receive. We do receive top-up funding, and I note in the report that we were due to receive. We had invoiced for another $900,000 in anticipation, and that's been paid, and so that project is all on track. And we're receiving funding. We're cash flow positive. All the things that the government set out as part of stimulus, actually, we're achieving those milestones and spending the money.
Mr. Harper, do you want to talk about the key projects?
I can certainly talk on behalf of my.
Lot of good news.
I can certainly talk on behalf of my colleagues on any of the Downland and the Pariora. My colleague Susie can talk about the roadie ones, but I do wish to bring to council's notice a comment made by the chair of the Audit and Risk Committee last week at this very time in this chamber, and he noted in the preliminary draft annual report the high level of CapEx spend that we achieved last year. Yeah, it's of the order of 70 million, which is double what we've achieved previously, and I think that is recognition of the chief executive's organisational change made nearly 2 years ago, where he wanted to implement a program delivery function. Lily and I, were appointed to that role, and it's shown up across the organisation what can be achieved when you have a dedicated resource focusing on that. With my shift in role and decrease in hours, and Lily on maternity leave, then it's been a bit of a struggle for the last 6 months, but Lily's back next month, and so we'll put some more effort, resource into it then. So, but as the chair of the Audit Risk Committee noted, the 70 million spend of that audit for last year was really, given this trying circumstances, it was really good.
Absolutely. Any questions for Mr. Harper? invite Susie, please.
Morning all. So obviously in land transport, we've still been pretty busy working through our flood recovery works. But you'll see on our project update on page 23 that we've also been working through a lot of design and review work. So just highlighting the likely projects that will go ahead this year are up in design work. So Winchester Hanging Rock stage 1 and 2 is basically that work up there will happen in November, will start in November, so the site's will be completed by Christmas. Another big one that we're working on is obviously Brown Street, Timaru, outside Countdown. So we're just pulling together some design information and drawings at the moment for that to go and talk with Countdown. But we're looking at timing for that after Christmas. And then yeah, just a few other ones that we're working on. We're still, with the funding allocations that have been received by the Transport Agency, we're still working with them to identify projects that we might be able to pull together business cases to release further funding. So that hits the Levels Plain Road, that terrible bit of road out to the airport from State Highway 8. So yeah, so we're working on a bit of that at the moment too, but so we've just tried to give a bit of an overview on what we're working through, but very confident that we'll get this year's delivered well and in advance of deadlines. So still tracking well at the moment.
Thank you, Susie. Councillor Booth.
I'm just sort of wondering about Park Lane. I mean, I just keep driving down there to go to the Croft all the time, and it's just my shock absorber is going to be worn out shortly.
Yeah, so our lovely drainage and water team have some upgrades that they need to undertake to the three waters on Park Lane. So once they're out of our way, we'll be more than happy to go in and do some, unlikely to be a full pavement rehabilitation, but we'd do some pretty significant size, length and width repairs to get a smoother ride. Yeah, so that's what we're on.
I guess you've already done the repairs. It's just the whole street's a nightmare. It's been patched and patched, and just for you to say you're not going to do a whole resurface is simply wouldn't suffice. I would have thought.
Oh, it will get a full resurface, but it would just be more along the lines of like significant pavement rehabilitation using the maintenance gear. So instead of digging everything out and bringing in new material, we'll do, like I said, yeah, full width, full length. So you've actually got a smoother ride. So you will certainly be looking at pulling through net present value analyses to see which is the best outcome and make sure that we've got a smooth ride for the customer.
I couldn't agree more, Councillor Booth. I use that road every day. And also, I'm aware that there was going to be a small roundabout at that intersection, so that will happen at the same time as a resurface.
Yes, correct. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Lovely.
So we'll keep an eye on it.
Thank you. Any other questions for Susie, please? No. Thank you for all your work, leadership. So we'll go back to the recommendation that the report be received and noted. I'm happy to move it. I've got a seconder. Councillor Barrett, all those in favour? Aye, against, moved. Thank you. Moving on to 7.2. So 7.2 report is the Canterbury Waste Joint Committee request for Environment Canterbury to rejoin and to host a staff resource. So it's looking at three different areas here, or there's three different recommendations. One is regarding a new staff position to be created to progress initiatives across the region regarding waste minimisation and to enhance regional collaboration. Other one is looking at the budget, and then the consideration of inviting ECAM back to rejoin. I do point out that Councillor Riley is our rep on this joint committee, and I'll give you an opportunity to speak to the report as well, Councillor Riley, if you so wish. But I will pass it over to Bill or Andrew. And
sorry, just
would you like to speak before the
I was just
officer?
going to say, just to clear conflict of interest and sit back from this just because of the fact that it involves a decision around bringing ECAN into the fold. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parker. You've covered the main points of this report. It is really, in the past, individual councils have done various projects which have benefited the whole community, and Timaru district has been a leader in that, and they've done things like e-scrap waste, which is still going over 10 years and have been a real benefit. So that it has been developed in individual councils and then gone to the wider group. What this proposal is saying is, rather than doing that, that there is one staff member ideally located within ECAN, which is why they're inviting ECAN back to the group, so they can host it, and it's done there collectively rather than individual councils doing it. But over the years, Timaru district has been very proactive and received a lot of funding, like $30,000 this year. So we've got more back than we've contributed, but that's because we've been proactive in doing that and going on. It's probably better if it's a collective approach rather than it being spread throughout the whole district.
Thank you, Bill. So we've been proactive and we've been managing it well as more of an individual than part of this joint community, no, it's part of the committee, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what has helped us with our success so far.
Yeah, sorry, I should clarify that in that we have been doing it on behalf of the whole group, but I don't think that one organisation can do it for the whole of Canterbury to keep doing it. So that's why a collective approach with funding that position hopefully goes to meet you.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Stans. Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I have been on this group for my time being on council, and I sometimes wondered why we're on there. But now that they're with our previous waste management, Ruth, her name's eluded me, has shifted from us. Ruth was a great driver for the community and for waste minimisation. And if it wasn't for her being such a strong advocate for waste minimisation, I believe we wouldn't have got the things through, because it was very strongly driven from out of Christchurch, and I felt that they sort of dominated a fair bit on the way through it. But I will move the recommendation with ECAN coming on board and with having a designated staff member for it. I believe going forward it will be a little bit more successful than I felt that it has been over the previous time. So I'd be happy to move that recommendation for those three.
The whole three?
Yes.
Lovely. Any other discussion from the floor? Comments, questions? Okay, so we've got a mover, Councillor O'Reilly, and a seconder, Councillor Gilchrist, for the recommendation 1, 2, and 3. Put that to the floor. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Thank you. Now we are going to move into exclusion of the public. I'm happy to move us in if I've got a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Oliver. All those in favour? Aye. Thank you.